and welcome to Greenheart Connects. I'm Marcel and I'll be your host. We are so glad that you are here. Greenheart Connects is an online series inspiring and facilitating the global community to make the world a better place through environmentalism, volunteerism, fair trade, and personal development. Greenheart Connects is brought to you by Greenheart International, a not-for-profit organization facilitating global understanding through cultural exchange programs for Americans and young people around the world. Today's episode of Greenheart Connects will begin with a story of how Dr. Marty K came to be an activist. She will then join us to discuss her foundations, Show Me Arts and UnGUN Institute, and the work that she does to bring healing to the community. We will then listen in on a conversation with Dr. Casey and an intern with UnGUN Institute, Marcus Daniel, as they talk about hurting, healing, and being a positive force in the world. Following that segment, we will have a live question and answer session with Dr. Casey. Next is a snapshot from our global community, this time from Romania, where Catalin Tomescu worked to get people involved in the environment and their community. We will end with some ways that you can get more involved in your community. Thank you for being here. Exchange has the power to broaden perspectives and to change lives. Are you ready to connect people and planet? Let's go.
I'm often asked, when did this all start for me? I actually started activism when I was in college, but I really didn't understand how activism and the community could come together until August 9th, 2014. I'll never forget that moment when my daughter called. She was almost frantic, like, "Mommy, where are you? I'm out shopping. What's wrong?" She says, "Well, whatever you do, don't come down West Florissant." And that's a very known, kind of busy street in Ferguson. And she says, there's cops everywhere. There's ambulance and helicopters, fire trucks. And I said, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?" She says, "I think a cop shot a Black boy and he's dead." Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, that was concerning, but it wasn't anything unusual. So I said to her, "Turn on the news. It has to be something more to it." And she gasped. She says, "Mommy, he was shot at 12:03 in the afternoon." And so I stopped and I looked at the clock in my car and it said 3:36. I said, "Okay." She says, "He's still lying in the streets." And I knew then that there was something wrong. Something was wrong with humanity. Something was so broken that it was going to take all of us to fix it. He was shot hours ago, and yet they still had him lying out in the streets bleeding. But my heart bled for his mother. I couldn't imagine hearing that my child was just shot. The trauma that I felt for his mother was beyond words. I felt her pain as a mother, and I wanted to help. I didn't know if I was doing anything that was helpful, but I knew that I needed to help. I knew that we all needed to help. We all should be just as concerned and upset. And what can we do to guarantee this never happen again? So I took it to the streets. I had a cardboard cutout of President Obama. So for days, when I would go out in Ferguson on the front line and marching, I would take this cutout. When I would ride down the street with the cutout, I would actually allow it to hang out the sunroof of my car. And people would be like, wait a minute, is that President Obama? And then they realized that it was a cutout, but it got the attention. A reporter who had taken the picture of it, and that picture landed in the New York Times. So I'm sharing all this because sometimes it's just really simple things that we can do to help move the needle, to help deliver the message, to help make small changes that then grows and continues to grow and grow into the bigger change that we need and we want to see. A lot of times when we look at a problem, we see the mountain as a solution. But I want to encourage everyone today to minimize the mountain and really focus in on a rock-size solution. The size of a rock that you can hold in your hand. If I think I can throw a rock from here to Australia, it will never happen. But if I am willing to pick the rock up and throw it as far as I can personally throw it, and someone else promised to pick the rock up and throw it as far as they can throw it, together we have thrown the rock as far as it needed to go. That's where we are right now. What little bit can you do to make a difference in our world? If you look at what's happening in our world, the divide and how many places and times we're showing up and we're divided, you'll give up before you get started because you go, oh, I don't have the answer to that. That is, who can figure that out? But if you can personally do your part, I promise you it's enough when we all personally do our part. Wherever there is human life, no matter the culture, no matter the native tongue, no matter how old, no matter the race, it is going to take all of us to do our part. We have been hurt and we are hurt. But when are we going to say enough is enough? Now let's heal. Hurting people hurt people, but healed people can heal people. We're not living our best life. We're existing. We're coping. We're accepting. We're ignoring. We're hurting. We're falling. But we can get back up. If we forgive and we heal, we can then live. We get to live. It doesn't remove what we've been through. You don't get to change the story, but you do have the right to choose how you respond to what you're going through. I knew that when I hit the streets of Ferguson, It was important for me not to go to Ferguson in anger. I could not help the situation showing up that way. But I wanted to show up with love. And I wanted to show up with the spirit of a community of helping my neighbors, helping a family that I did not know. And I've come to know Michael Brown's mother, not because I reached out to her, but because she turned to me and she thanked me for how I was showing up in the community and helping. I didn't throw my rock far, but I threw it as far as I could personally throw it. And I hope that you can do the same.
Live from St. Louis, Missouri, we welcome Dr. Marty K. Casey.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here on this platform today, Marcel. It's truly an honor to be here.
I'm still trying to gather myself. It's such a powerful story, and thank you for sharing that story, Dr. Casey. That moment in time in Ferguson, August 9th, 2014, ignited the fire in you and inspired you to throw your rock as far as you could. And specifically, you started the UnGUN Institute. Can you tell us more about the organization?
Absolutely. Well, as you can see through the video, I first started the nonprofit Show Me Arts Academy. And UnGUN Institute is a program that is under the umbrella of my nonprofit. UnGUN Institute is an anti-violence program, trauma informed. And it is really this method was created to help individuals deal with the collective trauma, as an example of what we just saw and talked about dealing with Ferguson. And when you add on all of the other stories that we have all come so familiar with, and when I just think about that, even in this very moment, Marcel, I'm thinking about growing up, and we knew nursery rhymes. We all were familiar with stories, fictional stories of nursery rhymes, but the children today, they know of stories that are truly about real lives and lives that have been taken through violence. And it is so unfortunate. And so what we have to do, we really need to put the focus on healing. And that's what UnGUN Institute aims to do. It is to emotionally gather individuals and helping them to deal with the trauma and the experiences that they have had in their communities or even in their own personal lives.
That's wonderful. I'm glad the UnGUN Institute exists, and I hope more people are aware of that. I was really moved during that segment, during the video. You mentioned that you want to show up not showing anger, but showing love, and how this is the basis of your work to achieve healing. Do you have an example that you can share with us of how this has positively played out, showing up with love?
I have several examples, but I'll try to make this one short. It's, the reason that I have been able to do the work is because I have experienced it on both ends. We talk about hurt people, healed people can heal people. Well, I was first hurt. I was born, unfortunately, into some traumatic experiences. My background, and I'm very open about that. My father, I love my dad. I was a daddy's girl, but my father he was an alcoholic, and he was really trying to cope with his own situations, and that came from even how he was raised. His father was an alcoholic, so it was one of those things that was being passed down generation to generation. And to this day, I choose not to drink at all. So this kind of like where I began to break the generational curse. However, because of that, I had a lot of anger issues growing up. And by the time I was in high school, I had already attended, let's see, by the time I was in the ninth grade, I attended 10 different schools. So that's traumatic within itself. If you can imagine that, trying to readjust yourself to an environment and a different set of children in a different neighborhood every year. And I was dealing with a whole lot, but I had a gift. I had the gift to sing. And my music teacher, she noticed that. And I remember her keeping me after class one day, and she says that, you know what, Marty, you're gifted and doors will open for you. She says, but I'm going to be honest, they, as quick as they will open, they will also close, because you need to change some things that's going on the inside of you. Well, in that moment, being a 15, 16-year old, I really didn't understand exactly what she was saying, but I thought about it. I was like, oh, she's saying I have a bad attitude. You know, I was quick tempered. I, you know, I had a potty mouth, is what they would call it. You know, I this was just I just responded really quickly off the cuff in a very negative way, and that was holding me back. But I wanted to sing so bad. I really thought I was going to be the next Whitney Houston. Boy, was I wrong. But the bottom line is that I wanted something so bad in a positive way that it made me look at myself from the inside out and begin to make those changes. Once I challenged myself to do that, Marcel, and I smiled, just simply smiling. I'm almost getting teary eyed right now, because people don't understand that that is a mechanism that is built in, that if we could just instantly right now, anybody that's listening, if you can just force yourself to smile, what you're saying is that you're going to be okay, and that you are enough, and that you can make it. That smile is your personal belief in yourself. And once I began to smile, and I smiled every day, and I smiled through the pain, and I smiled through the hurt, every day I was inching towards being a better person. And that's how we can do it. That's how I did it. And that is why UnGUN is so important to me, because that's what I call it. I didn't know what to call it back then, but now I've given it a name. And it's how to ungun yourself from the heaviness of the emotional turmoil.
Mhm. Well, music and smile, something that is so easy to do, something that all of us can do. I want to go to a little bit more information about some statistics surrounding young Black men, which leads you to create the Black Sunday event. Can you talk about that?
Yes, Black Sunday is an event that was created by a group of world leaders, if you will, that I felt that it was necessary for us all to come together and use our platform in a positive way. We cannot ignore what is happening in our country and around the world right now. And police violence is the leading cause, if you will, of death in young men here in the United States. One in every 1,000, and specifically in Black males, it's 77% of homicide victims are Black men. And so that's very concerning to me. And when you think about the hurt and the pain, when we talk about collective trauma, how many families that we are affecting in this manner. So Black Sunday is really about healing and restoring the legacy of these young Black men and women that have been killed by the hands of a broken system, if you will, through police brutality. We all understand that policing is important, and we also understand that it's more about trying to make sure that our systems are working fairly for everyone. And when they're not, then that's when we need to stop, and we need to take a look at what is happening and how can we fix that, because no one should be dying uh, from a situation that we can, as human beings, stop and look at and take the opportunity to fix this. No one should be dying, Black, white, brown, it doesn't matter who you are, a system or even a pandemic. should not be claiming the lives of families in this manner, and we not stop and say, what can we do from a place of humanity to protect all?
Thank you, Dr. Casey. Let's tune in to hear a conversation between Dr. Casey and Marcus Daniel, who is one of the voices representing many young Black men in America.
Good afternoon, Dr. Marty. How are you?
I am doing well, Marcus. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for joining me. From Ferguson to the world on Black Sunday. We were inspiring others around it, from Australia, from right here home in St. Louis, from Japan. How are you inspiring these people from across the world?
Well, Marcus, I would have to say that one of the ways to inspire anyone is to just show up and be authentic. And I have, at an early age, I learned that the best way for my voice to be heard and to be seen is to naturally be myself. And either people will accept you and the message that you are delivering, or they will not. But the good news is, those who can't receive the message probably was not for them. At least you're not the messenger for them. So that is the best way to inspire, is just authentically be yourself. And wherever and whomever the message is supposed to land with, it will absolutely do so.
Awesome. And inspiring these people across the world, having these community conversations, these driven, important conversations, unifying everyone. How are you specifically trying to unify us?
Well, I think it's necessary that we unify. We are really living in some very trying times right now. We're dealing with a lot of pandemics, not just COVID-19, but we're also dealing with a racial pandemic. And here in America, we even have an election that's coming up that unfortunately we are divided. And so I just think that it is important that we all unite globally, because together we are better. And there's power in numbers. So anytime you're trying to shift anything in the atmosphere, it's important to have as many people on your team to do so as you possibly can. So this is definitely the time, with the issues that we are dealing with, that we come together across the land.
And currently, with all this negativity, all this hate that's in the world, why do you believe that it's hard for people to actively seek change right now?
It is. I guess it really depends upon the individual and where they are personally in life. With my organization, Show Me Arts Academy, I created a program called UnGUN. And so through UnGUN Institute, we help people to really work on disarming trauma. And I have come to learn that hurting people hurt people, yet healed people can heal people. So once you get people in a place where they are feeling better about themselves, and they start to treat others a little kinder. And it's important that with all of the negativity that's going on in our world, that we really, this is the time to do some self-reflection, to look in the mirror and just kind of see who you are and what's going on with you and how you're showing up. We don't need the add-on to show up in each other's lives and add more drama or trauma or negativity or depression. No one needs that right now. We really don't. And because things are so sensitive in our culture, I think it's important that we really do take the time out to do a self-check, to do that. And I think that we will start to treat each other a lot better in the process.
And taking that trauma and taking that pain that someone might feel right now, how do you think they could turn it into positivity, turn it into the change that we seek?
Well, I look at life like a pendulum. If it's this high on this end, then naturally it's going to go that high on that end, and that's where we kind of find the balance. So the way that you can turn that around, if you can measure how bad you might be feeling or how bad you think life is right now. Well, if you can only imagine that, if you can get that pendulum to swing to the other side, that's how I believe, my faith tells me that your blessings are going to be equally the same. So it's just a matter of getting that motion going to say that I can. And I believe in I can forgive, I can heal, I can live. That's the I can challenge that I have for everyone around the globe right now. Once you tell yourself that you can, you have to just say that out loud. I can forgive. And forgiving is hard sometimes because forgiving doesn't mean that you forget. It just simply means that you're not going to allow it to be a trauma bullet and stop you in life, because you want to get to that place of living, not just existing, not just showing up, not just I'm here or I'm doing the best that I can. No, I want to live. So I believe that it's so important that you can imagine. You can simply imagine yourself, no matter where you are and what you're dealing with and your emotions and your feelings right now, to know that life can be better. And put the motion with that pendulum, and you're going to get there.
Beautiful. And with this pendulum, with the balance of light and dark, do you believe? Well, obviously you do believe. What is the light at the end of the tunnel? What is that ultimate goal that you envision?
The ultimate goal that I envision for myself or for the world?
For the world.
We're going big, huh? Go big or
Going
go home.
big.
Well, the ultimate goal that I envision for the world, I believe, is the same goal that I will hope we all are envisioning, that we can love each other just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Imagine if right now today we say, you know what, I'm going to make that effort to smile and to say hello and to check on someone, just something, a small step, just to love the world a little bit more. But if we all did it at the same time, imagine how much darkness we would actually erase from the atmosphere because we all turned our lights on at the same time. That's my hope. That's my dream for the world.
And that is a beautiful dream.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Wow.
And so I would love to hear from you, Marcus, as a young Black man in America right now, with everything that is taking place. How do you feel? Do you feel safe walking the streets?
I would say overall, I feel heavy. Walking the streets, it feels like at times that my own life is not in my hands. That I walk down the street and I see a cop car and it's right then and there. If that officer or if that just random person is just having a horrible day, that they could take it into their own hands and do whatever they like. Walking into grocery stores, into any store, and having all the employees, the security guards just look at me because I'm a young Black man with dreads or locks. It feels like pointless anxiety, but no anxiety is pointless because it's induced by this negative part of society that we've been a part of for so long, so long. I just have to laugh at some point because it's been here for so long. It's the only coping mechanism I have. Comedy, make a joke out of it, but it's just hard. I try to not dwell on the negative part of it. I'm trying to be an optimist these days.
Yeah.
That's how I deal with it.
You know, that's interesting, Marcus, because when I was in high school, which is taking me back some years now, but I can't remember this story. But when I was in high school, I was really dealing with a lot of trauma in my life that started from childhood. And I think that it really was overwhelming for me by the time I reached the age of 15, 16 years old. And I was a senior in high school and I was voted class clown. And I remember all of my friends saying, oh my gosh, Marty, you so funny. I love that I had you in class. You made me laugh every day. But what they didn't know is that on the inside, I was crying. And that is truly a mechanism that we tap into quite often, and especially as Blacks, we naturally, I believe, we go on the inside of ourselves, and we then start to look at the world in a laughable way. And it seems like I would imagine that some people think we don't take life seriously, but it's not that. It's just that it's the only way at times we feel that we can cope. And I find now as an adult, here I am, fast forward 30 something years later, that I, I'm not laughing as often as I once did. So that's something that I believe, we will grow out of, in a sense, or at least I did, but it really was the way that I was able to cope at your age. And so I say to you, Marcus, what can we do to support you? See, no one knew that I was in a dark place back in high school at that time, which is where I really began to do this work now of ungunning. But is there a way that the world or the community can support you? Because I don't want you to just feel like the only outlet is laughter. I really want you and others, and all of us for that matter, to really see life as it is. We are dealt some cards in our hands, and we have to play the cards that we have. But I want you to be confident in knowing that you can walk down the street and you are safe, and we will be there to help you. How can we do that?
I would say the easiest way, at least for me, is just ask how I'm doing. You see someone, ask how they're doing. Start that conversation, and even if they don't want to take that conversation to the sad but true, but dark but true life that we all live in, ask them how they're doing. They might say good, and they might be horrible, but try to pick up on that. Try to be there for somebody. As you said earlier, if the world just loved a little bit more, just show that you care just a little bit to somebody. And has changed my day before. I've been at work before, and random people come in during the protests, during all the riots, and they would see me. And although I was wearing an actual mask and my metaphorical mask, but I appreciate that they took the time to look at me and just say, "Hey, how are you?" And of course, I didn't want to say, because as a black man, we have grown up not being so emotional. So I didn't want to do all that right there, but I let them know that I do really appreciate that.
That's awesome. Marcus, I heard behind me, I don't know if you can see this, but that's the picture on during Black Sunday, August 9th this year, that we wrote out the International Observance of Black Sunday. Can you say that for me, Marcus? Because I want you to say it like you always say it. This is what?
Sunday, and that's sun with an O.
With an O. I love it. I love it. So I love the fact that you just made mention of sometimes as Black men, you all cannot be emotional. And when I look at this piece that Kababi Bayak actually painted, and he's a wonderful, beautiful, talented, anointed artist out of St. Louis, Missouri. Although he has pieces all around the world, he's really making a name for himself. But as I look at this piece, and we don't necessarily see the emotions, like you said, but the body language says a lot. What do you see there, Marcus?
The young man, his legs crossed for sure, like he's contemplating, thinking. The older gentleman, his hand on there, like he's thinking. But I love, more than anything, I love the clock that's under the checker piece, the checker table.
You know what's interesting about that is that when Kababi was painting this in real time, he said he decided to make that part of it a clock because I mentioned that love, Love, with children today is no longer spelled Love, is spelled Time. And
Mm.
that's the reason that he turned that into a clock, which I thought was very nice and inspirational. When I look at this, I see a very confident child with his legs crossed that he knows he's making the right move. But it's
Mm.
interesting because the other day, My husband saw this piece, and as a Black man growing up here in St. Louis, Missouri, he said the way that the father is looking with his hand under his chin is almost as if to say, son, I've told you too many times, you don't move that piece first. And it's all his dad, my husband's father taught him how to play chess. So what he saw in the body language of the father, he read this as if, here you go again, thinking you have the right answer. And I keep telling you, you don't move this first, but I'm going to let you make that move and I'll show you that that wasn't the right move. And I said to my husband, you see all of that in that picture? And,
Right.
and that's interesting because that is the point that I really want to bring home. We have a lot of body language, unspoken language that we as a culture, we speak all the time, that we're talking even when we're not saying anything. And I think that that's another way that we can come together and unite when we start to learn each other's body language, and not just as a Black culture, but anyone in the world. Even if I go to another country and I may not know their native tongue, if I just pay attention to the body language, there's so many things that I can hear them say that I may not verbally understand. So I think that that's also a way that we can unite a little bit better if we start paying attention to how people are physically showing up. I want to thank you, Marcus, for always spending time with me, keeping me on my toes, keeping an old lady young. I appreciate that. But I do want to end it on this one thing, on the very same thing that you asked me. I want to flip that and ask you the same thing. What is it that you would like to offer to the world, so to speak? Like, in what way would you like to see the world be a better place and to bring more peace and unity into it?
If the world could feel more. We all love in general, that's the feeling that we need more of course. But empathy, there's so many people in charge of countries, in charge of continents that look at their own people and don't feel for them. They
Mm,
don't, they can't place themselves in another person's shoes. They cannot look at someone and have that innate human connection. That's what I want for the world. And that's what I hope to do through acting, through art, through conversation. If I can just make you feel, that's my goal.
that's beautiful, Marcus, and I think that that's powerful, actually, because I think in this conversation we offer two um, things for the world that if they could just love just a little bit more and feel just a little bit more, we will have already made the difference and
Mm,
really start walking towards that hope for peace and unity.
that
Wow.
light.
And
Mhm.
light, that light. And that's the thing. You know what, Marcus, I want to say this one thing. I'm glad you brought that up. We could be in a room full of darkness. I mean, as much as you can imagine. The sky, let's take the sky. The sky could be pitch black. But if it's one star shining, your eye is going to automatically go to that light. You're going to find that one glimpse of light shining in the darkness. Why can't we live life like that? Why can't
Mm.
we, when we find ourselves in darkness, just find the little bit of light, that glimpse? Look to the light.
Look to the light.
Look to the light. Marcus,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I think we can all appreciate the insights that you both offered. As we are going into the Q&A segment now, I'd like to invite everyone attending to drop your questions in the forum below so that I can ask Dr. Casey. So please introduce yourself if you haven't already. You can say, this is Gosia from Poland, and my question is, da, da, da. All right, so I can start our Q&A with something that Marcus said towards the end. If the world can feel more, he was talking about empathy and the importance of having that human connection. What do you think prevents people from being able to empathize and seeing things from other people's perspective, Dr. Casey?
Wow. You would think that that question is simple, but it really isn't. I'm going to say that I believe what keeps others from really, really, truly empathizing is their lack of experiencing what someone else may have experienced or be experiencing. We really have to sometimes get uncomfortable in order to be comfortable with what we see in others. And so sometimes that's just a matter of getting getting close, asking questions, really trying to view things from your heart and not your head. You know, in our minds, we make assumptions and we make judgments, but in our hearts, that's where we feel. That's where we can identify and remove all of those things that keeps a barrier from us really understanding the next individual. So that's what I would say. That is the reason that I believe that we lack empathy, just not having that opportunity to experience what someone else may be experiencing. Walk in their shoes. We hear that all the time. Only if you can walk in my shoes. Well, somebody's shoes may be too big, somebody's shoes may be too small, and hard to kind of keep on your feet, but just take a stroll in their shoes for a moment and see then how you feel. And it's going to be what you feel in your heart and not with what you're thinking in your brain.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Evan from Wheaton, Illinois. He was asking, can you talk about how to positively commemorate trauma in a way that focuses on healing? Is Black Sunday an example of this? If so, what can we learn from this and how can it be applied to the ongoing trauma that we've seen in our country in 2020?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Is it Evan? Is his name? My goodness. Well, I will do my best. Well, let me just say this. If they go to UnGUN Institute on Facebook, we have 12 hours of Black Sunday. And that the information that is in there, I believe that Evan will truly find in real time, if you will, the answers to the question that he just asked. And I hope that 12 hours is a long time to take a look at an event, but we had this went from Ferguson to the world. And so we didn't just want to show or talk about what happened in Ferguson as collective trauma, but we wanted to show how it has been affecting us all around the world. So we took you from Ferguson to the indigenous people in Australia, as well as we talked about Rwanda and Africa. And so you will see that trauma is nothing new, but how we approach it, that is where we need to tap into something that is new, if you will. We understand that this collective trauma has been happening, but have we done any collective healing? And so that's what we're really trying to create that approach. And so that is why UnGUN Institute to me is a method where we can actually do this. But it starts with being honest and authentic and talking about those stories. A lot of times what I believe that we've done in the past, and this is no judgment, but it's just something that has happened. When something makes us feel bad, we don't talk about it. It's a I don't want to hear it. I can't. I mentally can't handle it. I physically it makes me sick or whatever the case may be. And we have to gently push past that and those triggers to be able to talk about those things so that we can get to a place of healing. So when I speak about trauma, and UnGUN, I talk about removing trauma bullets. Trauma bullets are those experiences that you have had. And when we remove those experiences from our mind, our bodies, and our spirit, then it allows us the space to create. And that's where the arts come in. As I spoke to you all before, when that teacher put a mic in my hand, it gave me the power to be able to sing. My voice became valuable. And in that moment, I was able to tap into the arts, the art of singing, being able to just freely breathe. And being able to breathe is what allows that trauma to break. Just simply taking time out to take breaths. And we breathe every day without us even knowing, right? Every moment we're breathing. But when you say, you know what, in this moment, I want to shut everything down. And I want to be aware of my breaths. And I want to be thankful for my breaths right now, because my breaths that's the medicine that I need in this moment, as I can feel my blood rising, and I can feel that I'm starting to get angry or unravel. Stop and control your breaths. Breathe. I'm connected with Peace Breathing School in Chicago, and Master Kim has mastered this. And he talks about that when we breathe in the word world and we exhale peace, those two simple words in the process of breathing can change your whole day. Try it. It's free. You can do it anywhere, and you can do it for yourself. But who will benefit? Not just you, but everyone that you're connected to. I hope that helps, Evan.
I just took a deep breath as I'm listening to you, because it is true. Sometimes we are just so wrapped up in the moment that we tend to forget to breathe and just take a moment. We have a question from Jason. Does Dr. Casey have any tips for how one can develop skills to see more of the rocks than the mountains? The media seems to focus a lot on so many of the mountains rather than stories of people throwing their rock.
Wow, I like that. Thank you for putting my own words back at me, Jason. Well, yes, the tip is, what can you do? Don't worry about what the media is showing you or what they are saying everyone else who should be responsible for us, like people that we voted into office or individuals that are ahead of our communities in some sort of space. I want us to self-reflect. And I think that if we stop and say, who am I? What do I have to offer to the world in a positive way? Then that will allow you to understand what rock you need to pick up. And that will give you the strength to throw it. Don't worry about the mountain. The mountain is the big picture, but I'll give you another example, Jason. Let's look at a 5,000 puzzle, okay? 5,000 pieces. Oh my goodness, when you open up that box and you spread those 5,000 pieces out on the table, you do like this and go, oh my gosh, how am I going to put this puzzle together? You take it one piece at a time. And as you begin to pick up that piece, and then you pick up another piece, and you may pick up 30, 40, 50 pieces before you find two that actually click and connect. So don't give up. Don't be discouraged. Have faith that all 5,000 pieces are in that box and that you will continue to work at it and put it together. And when you finish, you have this beautiful, beautiful piece of art. That's what that mountain is. Yeah, we see a big mountain. Yeah, it looks like we can't fix it, but we can with your one rock. Throw your rock, Jason, while I throw mine. Marcel going to throw hers, and everybody else watching, they're going to throw their rock. And before you know it, we've hit that mountain. We've knocked it down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that reminder. We have another one here from Antonius from Jakarta, Indonesia, via Chicago. He is asking, what do you hope to see 5 or 10 years from now? We obviously are hoping for a better world, but would love to hear from you on the area specific to what you've been experiencing.
And I'm sorry, I didn't get the name.
Antonius.
Antonius, thank you. Well, Antonius, one of the things that I think we need to look at, what are some of the issues that we're having? Well, let's just be honest, we're having a lot of racial issues, right? And So the first thing that I believe that we can do, let's remove the boxes on when we apply for jobs. Let's remove the box of, are you Black? Are you white? Are you Asian? Are you other? Or what have you? How about we just check the box that we're human? How about that? How about we do that? Or not even have a box about that at all, because that's not what's important. But as long as we continue to see those small things that continue to divide us, it will continue to show up in the larger aspect of what's happening in our world. So if we start with that one small thing, remove that box. Because if I'm qualified to do the job, if I'm qualified and I'm ready and I want to do the job, does it really matter if I'm a Black woman? If I'm short or I'm tall? If I'm Methodist or Baptist? If I live in the United States or in China? Does it matter? It doesn't. We're looking for qualified individuals. So starting with something like that, that's one thing. The other thing is that I believe that all of us should be putting in a certain amount of hours of community service. We are so quick to discover and see the negative things that's happening in our world, but not everyone is really contributing to making sure that those things are better. So who's going to show up and and put in some hours, making sure that we have clean water, making sure that there's not pollution in our streets, and even if it's just okay, in this community this month, this community is going to clean up that area over there, and not your own area. Go clean up somebody else's area. That is what connects us. That is why this is called Greenheart Connects.
That's right.
Because it's truly about being able to come together, work as a team, and work well to create more love, joy, and peace in our world.
Thank you. That's a good reminder for all of us. And I think we have time for one last question. This is from Lydia in Chicago. She's asking, what are you listening to or reading right now that you think helps with the goal of having more empathy? Any podcasts or books or newsletter?
You know what, Lydia? Thank you for asking. The book that I'm reading is actually right here, and I'm going to show you. This is Goodbye, Hurt and Pain, and this book is by Dr. Deb Sandella. I am scheduled to actually take a class for RIM, her RIM Institute, the first week of November. And so I am reading up so I can be prepared for that class. And it is awesome. The tips in here is amazing. So if you get an opportunity, by all means, please go and pick up that book. And thank you for asking. And of course, I sing every day, if that matters. It doesn't matter what song falls in my mind or my heart, but I just sing. And I apologize. I got to get plugged up here. I don't want to lose us. Just a second. So on that note, I want to sing with you all just real quick. I want to sing something really simple. And wherever you are, I hope that you sing this with me. I talked about growing up and we have little nursery rhymes or what have you that we grew up with. And we need to put songs back into our hearts, right? That we can collectively sing. So, he's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He has St. Louis and Chicago in his hands. He's got New York and California in his hands. He's got Washington, D.C. and everywhere in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
Bravo. Thank you. Wow, that was a treat. Thank you so much for the last piece. We're flooded with questions, and unfortunately we are at time, but I'll try to connect with Dr. Casey after this and see if we can get your questions answered. There's lots of good questions here, and I think it just shows that people are really interested in healing and getting rid of the negativity, and how can each of us play a role. So Dr. Casey, it's been wonderful to speak with you and hear your perspectives today. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thank you for having me. And I just want to just reiterate real quick, be sure to smile, breathe, sing, and vote.
Very important. And for everyone else, stay tuned to hear from Catalin Tomescu in Romania. As a medical student, Catalin knows the life-saving importance of blood donations. And as a person who values nature, he also understands the impact of environmental sustainability in the community. His volunteer project connected the two and inspired his community. So come along and see and hear from our friend Catalin in Romania.
I am Catalin. I am currently a second-year resident in cardiology at the emergency hospital of Timișoara. And in 2019, I have organized my very first volunteer event here in Timișoara. I entitled Beauty of Nature, Essence of Life. Because I wanted it to include two of my biggest passions, the passion for environmental sustainability, beauty of nature, and the passion for medicine, essence of life. And for that, I planted cherry blossoms because I wanted them to remind me of Washington, D.C. Sanitized the park where we planted those trees, and afterwards went, me and the volunteers, to the local transfusion center and donate blood, because me as a medical practitioner, I know how important the blood donation is and how it can actually save lives. It's essential to life. It was a very bumpy road, let's call it. What was very satisfying for me was seeing the people nearby stopping and congratulating us for what we did. Some of them even stopped. They were people living nearby, and they saw us from their windows, and they came by to help us, and they said, "Wow, this is incredible. You guys are very active people in our society, and we really appreciated you, and we couldn't watch you work, and so we felt we had to come and help you." That was the project was very hard to put to make it a reality, but at the end it was more than a success. It surpassed my expectations, and that's my message to you. If you really want to do something, you just have to keep on moving forward. Of course, there are going to be drawbacks all the time, but I keep on moving forward. I knew that I had to do it, and in the end I did it. I always say that the mountain is the perfect metaphor of life. It's very, very hard to climb that mountain. You always want to give up, you always want to go back and say it's too hard, but at the end, when you get to the top and you see the beautiful view from over there, you realize that the effort was all worth it, and actually you don't even remember the effort you had to put on. Thank you very much, and peace.
What a fantastic job that you've done, Catalin. Thank you so much for sharing with us. As Catalin said, if you really want to do something, you need to keep moving forward. Greenheart wants to continue to encourage everyone to lend a hand to their communities, to help others and the earth. So please email us if you have a project to share. at connects@greenheart.org. We would love to hear from you and potentially feature you on an upcoming Greenheart Connects episode or on our social media channels. It starts with us, positive civic action. Today has been very enlightening and inspiring at the same time. What Dr. Casey said, finding that little bit of light during the darkness, spoke volumes because it shows that we all can play a part in making the world a better place. I hope you all enjoyed our presentation today. Many thanks to Dr. Marty Casey and Marcus Daniel, to Katalin Tomescu, and to all of you who attended and participated today. If you want to rewatch today's episode, it will be available within 24 hours after we wrap up. You can also watch our previous episode, Eco Living at Casita Verde, by clicking the link under the previous stream here on greenheartconnects.org. Next month, we will be touching on another Greenheart pillar, which is fair trade. So join us on Thursday, November 19, where we will be talking about shopping conscientiously for the holidays with the Executive Director of the Fair Trade Federation, Chris Salt. Until then, take care and be well. Thank you. We have had such positive response to our episode today, Positive Civic Action. And there's so many questions that we didn't get to address earlier during the live episode. So we want to make sure that we can have all of your questions answered by Dr. Casey. So Dr. Casey, welcome again.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here to continue to answer questions if I can.
All right, wonderful. We appreciate your time and generosity. So the first question that we have is Carol from Nashville. The world seems to be in a tight spot, so much tension. Smiling is hard sometimes. What conversation tips can you suggest when we end up in a dialogue with someone with whom we are very much disagreeing and we tilt to sadness and hopelessness?
Wow. It is hard. Smiling can be hard. One of the things that I would so it's almost as if that was a two questions in one. So I want to start with the smiling part. Smiling can be difficult. And one of the things that is important is to think about some things that make you smile so that in your own sense memory, you can recall a story or a song or someone that you love or you had a wonderful time with, and just recall that moment in your mind so that you can bring that smile forward. When I think about my great-grandmother, who was born in 1910 and she died in 2003, she could cook anything. Oh my gosh, she could really, really cook. And all I have to do is just think about seeing my great-grandmother in the kitchen. And I just automatically smile, I guess because I love food. And I know that she can really cook. So it tickles me from the inside out and it really makes me smile. So that's one thing. And then to the second part of that question, when you are engaging yourself in a conversation or in with individuals that you clearly are on two opposite ends of what you're feeling and thinking, I want you to first remember to protect your energy. Protect your energy. So how you respond, it's not so much as to bring correction to them or to find yourself in a debate. Think about yourself and just remember to say, you know what? I need to protect my energy. We even heard First Lady Michelle Obama say, when they go low, we go high. Well, that's an example of that. When someone is on a really low frequency as to how they're showing up in your space, you protect yourself and you go high and you smile and go, I don't know if this is the proper time or place for this conversation. So just to protect my energy as well as protecting yours. I think let's just let this go. And you smile and you walk away and say to yourself, I just went high.
Great tips. I don't think a lot of us would think about that because I think the natural reaction is to respond. And when you're not in a good place, you can respond negatively, which is definitely something that we don't want. So thank you for the tips. I think a lot of us can practice that in the environment that we're in this world. My next question is from Mike from Chicago. While we have come a long way as a country and a society, we still have so much to go or so far to go. How do you stay so positive about your mission?
Wow. It's not, I'm going to say it's not something that is always easy because I'm human. And trauma, again, is one of those things, it's unexpected. We don't see it coming. Something can happen. I can get a phone call right now that could just completely just emotionally offset me and throw me off. But I have to really keep my focus on the bigger picture. I know who I am and I know my purpose. And my purpose on this earth at this particular time is to be the best person that I can be and to help as many people as I can possibly help. When I keep my focus and my vision and my mission out front, it's very hard to get off course. So it's not so much that I'm remaining happy. I'm just staying on course as to why I have an opportunity to wake up every day. That's my mission.
Clearly defining the goal and staying on course.
Staying on course.
That's great. We're going international right now, and we have Viola from Poland. She is asking, there's so many global issues that we are all dealing with or hearing about these days. Could you please share your tips on how to choose a cause to support and how to follow through on the issues that matter to us so that our involvement is not a one-time thing? In other words, how can we become a lifelong activist?
Well, you have to first start with asking yourself, what do you believe you have to offer? And so I started off as an artist. When Ferguson happened, I was like, okay, all of us, the way I saw it was everybody in this area needed to stop and help with this situation. And when I said that, I was like, okay, now how can I personally help? I'm an artist. And I said, oh, well, that means that I have a stage and a platform where I can speak from and even invite others so I can create stories. I can write a show that talks about what just happened in Ferguson. I can, so it starts with who are you? What do you have to offer? And then activism, really what it is, it's answering the call of something where we need an answer to. So if we have issues, I'm just going to use this as an example. If you're, I believe Michigan is still having issues with their water system, with their clean water. So if you're in that area, can you donate bottles of water every month? Maybe you sacrifice and say, instead of me eating out 5 times a week, I'm going to eat out 3 times a week, and the money that I would have spent on those other 2 days, I'm going to buy bottled water and I'm going to donate. So it's very simple. But again, if we all just can think about what we can possibly do and think, and if someone did that, then what if they asked their friends and maybe their church and their community to match and do the same thing? We could have, well, look at there. We just, you know what I mean? We possibly fixed a situation that seems very global and widespread and that we're hearing about. But collectively, we all did a little bit and it added to making it better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Each of us can do something, and then just to watch that ripple effect, you have to have faith that people want to do the right thing. And sometimes it takes a pioneer to kind of get things started.
And be consistent. And I think that was part of her question, like what keeps you, when you can see the needle moving, keep watching. to see the needle move. And sometimes by doing that, you may need to journal and keep tabs of how many people did you get to join you in on that challenge. So it started with yourself, then maybe you added 10 people, and then 12 months later, now you have 100 people giving bottles of water. How many how many people are actually benefiting from that? When you can actually see that needle move, that's what's going to keep you going.
Yeah. Absolutely. You mentioned something about figuring out what can I contribute? What can I do that is in my wheelhouse? And we have an upcoming episode with Greenheart Connects. It'll be in December, where we're going to be talking about purpose, because everyone needs to realize the purpose in their life. And once they figure it out, then everything will fall into place. And I can't wait for that conversation, because I think it ties back to what we've been talking about today. So the next question is from Laura in Madrid, Spain. How do we help others who seem removed from the issues that are most troubling in these times to recognize their importance and to unite with the same concerns?
That somewhat goes back to the question that we were speaking about earlier about empathy. If you find an individual that is disconnecting from that, it's probably that they're lacking empathy. And there again can be simple tips that you can suggest to them so that they can work on the inside out. Because again, some people, can I just be honest, some people are not ready to help because they are going through so much themselves. So you almost have to also be in a place where you are ready to help. And that helping will not further put you in a worse situation. So I think, again, if we just start with self and we pray for others, that is, I come from a place of faith, and I'm all about simply wishing people well and praying for them. And when I see individuals, there used to be a time where I probably sat in a place of judgment, but now instead of looking through eyes of judgment, I look through eyes of understanding, that I can see, oh, wow, they're hurting. And maybe they're responding like that or showing up like that because of something they're dealing with and they're going through. And I'm wondering if anybody has stopped to help them. So try that. That can also go a long way when it comes to humanity and compassion and love for each other.
Approaching it from a place of understanding. That makes a whole lot of difference. I agree. We still have a few international questions here, or international audience. We have Viola from Poland. No, we already got that. We have Gosha tuning in from Eskişehir in Turkey. She's asking, I think that raising our youth as open-minded and empathetic individuals is the way to go when trying to change the social, racial, and cultural divisions. The one challenge is that this raising or upbringing is done by parents and guardians that themselves went through trauma related to some of these areas. So the question is, what's your advice to parents struggling with their own trauma? Any words of wisdom that could help to prevent it from transferring onto the new generation?
I think communication is key. I would love to see families take time out. There used to be a time that we would take time out to gather around the dinner table and we would all eat at the same time and just naturally have conversations. Well, I would love to just see each family figure out a day and a time where they can come to the table and everybody gets an opportunity to bring a subject matter to the table. There's, again, no judgment. No one's in trouble. There's not, but it allows everyone to have a voice. And can you imagine if we had a grandmother and a parent and then a child and maybe even a neighbor, and you bring everybody comes to the table and you talk about whatever subject matter it is. But what will happen is that just like right now, we're having a conversation and there are things that you're asking me that's making me think. And there are things that I'm sure that I'm answering that's saying, oh, wow, I didn't think about that. And just simple conversation can lead us to the answers that we're searching for. But we have to get to a place where we can hear one another. I want to be able to hear you, to understand so that I can then implement. But if we never have a time where we're talking to hear each other, how can we understand? Because parents, we're quick to do this because I said do it, versus taking the approach of, well, that is what worked for me, but I understand we're in some different times now. What do you believe could work for you? And how can we then find a halfway point? I have a 7-year-old grandson, and I sit down and I talk to my grandson all the time. And I'm going to be probably share a little bit more than what I need to share, but I'm going to be honest. Last night, my grandson and my daughter and my grandson was upset with his mother because he asked his mother to go and get his cover from another part of the house, and she didn't feel like getting it. So she lied and she said that cover was being washed. But he had seen the cover earlier and he knew it had already been washed. And he was upset. And I said, "Well, why are you crying? Why are you so upset?" And he said those words. He says, "My mom just lied to me." And he was 7. And I didn't like the way he said it, but I had to be honest that he was speaking his truth. And so what I said to him, I kind of played that middle person, and I said, "I understand that what your mother said to you was an untruth, and I think that she needs to address that. But before I can have her address what she did, I need for you to understand the way you just said that to your mother is not acceptable. So you need to apologize." And through tears and I'm sorry. And so then I looked at my daughter like, now you be the adult and you be because he caught you in saying an untruth. And so she then had to get herself together to apologize to a 7-year-old, and her face was tore up just as bad as his. And she was like, "Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't feel like getting your cover." But what we did through that little situation, it was 3 generations that communicated something that could have continued. I don't want him to think that his mother will just tell him anything because she doesn't feel like it. And I don't want him to feel like he can't express his feelings. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So through that situation last night, we were able to communicate and fix something because we were willing to hear and understand and then implement.
That's a great example. Thank you for sharing. And the power of children in how the way they see the world. We definitely have a lot of responsibility to make sure that we're bringing them up in the right way. And being honest, if we're approaching something from a place where it's not right or it's not appropriate. And
Yeah.
that got me thinking, because I have a little
Yeah.
also, and I'm sure there are some times when I would just brush him aside, and and that will affect the child. And so we
It
just
will.
have a lot of responsibility, for sure.
Because they have a lot of trust in us
Right.
as the adults and as the parents. They have a whole lot of trust in us. And just with that simple thing, he was losing trust and faith in his mother that she would tell the truth about something he needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the last question, and this is really bringing it home because it's coming from Vernon in St. Louis.
Ah,
So Vernon is asking, what can we do to see each other through these dark times? Speaking of real solutions to real problems.
there are a lot of things out here that I believe that we can do. And it's really about connecting to like-minded individuals. What are your needs? What do you want? Who's doing some of those things that you need and you want? How can you connect to them? How can we? I was just telling someone that success for me came by way of creating something that was not just beneficial to me, but it was beneficial to most. And so I believe that those are going to be the successful companies and opportunities moving forward. when we can help the masses. People are having financial issues. People are having health issues. People are just painfully going through so much emotionally. What can we create? How can we set things up to allow us to find each other and come together to help love and heal and bring hope back to each other? And that to me is so very, very important. Is there a bank out there that is giving loans right now and being a little free of maybe your credit score isn't showing up like, they would normally ask for it to be, but they're saying, you know what, people are in need. Let's do away with that. Well, if it's a bank out there, can we share those resources? How can we get that information to the masses? Because we need to help individuals. Is there, my daughter ended up having COVID-19 on Mother's Day. She ended up, and she's doing just fine, as you can see. She's fine. but my point to that is that when I experienced that in real time with my own daughter, her fighting for her life, and she had to fight real hard because she's got a 7-year-old, right? So we did everything that we could to make sure she was going to be okay. That's when I learned more about what's going on with COVID. Again, step into someone's shoes. And when I found out what to do, I went to Facebook and told everybody, hey, look, make sure you have put a, do this and do that, have a thermometer and I used paper plates, and so that when she would eat, then we could just throw those things away. And I did all kinds of little things that people wasn't talking about or thinking about. Share the resources. When you find out the answers, share. Invite somebody in to be a part of what it is that they need because you figured it out for yourself.
Well, it sounds like what we're doing today is also one of the ways that we can help each other by having these type of conversations, which are really needed. I mean, I don't know if there's anyone right now watching this conversation, and hopefully we can give them a little bit of an extra push or extra comfort if they're feeling down, if they have just been going through a tough situation, knowing that you've got to have hope, and there's a lot of things that each of us can do, so we shouldn't feel helpless. As long as we continue the conversation and we come from a place of understanding and we approach it with love, which is what you've been talking about today. So again, Dr. Marty Casey, I am so thankful for your time and just being generous with sharing your experience and your wisdom. And I know that a lot of people have benefited from it. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. I just wanted to share this one quick thing that you just mentioned about people being hopeless. I've been hearing and seeing a lot of that. The suicide rate is really climbing. It's really high right now because people are having a hard time coping with just what they're dealing with. Hopelessness, the medicine to hopelessness is help. Help. If you find someone dealing from a place of hopelessness, figure out how you can help them. And some of the best help is given when you don't ask. You just show up. Just show up. When my daughter was battling with COVID, my doorbell rang, and I'm thinking, oh, in the middle of a pandemic, and I know they know that my daughter is sick. Who's coming to my house? And when I went to the door, my friends were in the driveway with their mask on, and they were waving at me and blowing me kisses. They had just dropped off food, groceries, and it was all on my front porch, bags and bags of groceries. They never called and said they were coming. They never asked me what I wanted to eat. It didn't matter. They gave from their heart in a time where I needed it the most. Didn't ask. They just showed up with help in a situation where I thought I was hopeless. Let's show up. Let's show up with a green heart. Let that green heart mean to give. Have a heart of giving. Have a heart of giving, the gift of giving.
And with that, we wrap up today's episode. Thank you, Dr. Casey, and thank you everyone for watching.